chances that they could sign Tyreek Hill. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, this will be posted on YouTube after. It's live on YouTube, live on X, live on TikTok. And Tyreek Hill was released by the Dolphins yesterday in New Mexico right now with my girlfriend. I couldn't really do a live yesterday. I've been very busy here in New Mexico, away from my home studio and everything like that. But I still wanted to give my thoughts on the Tyreek situation. I wanted to see if it's a viable option. And the easy answer is probably not. And there's multitude of reasons why, but also there is a way they could bring him in. I mean, obviously they plan to release him. He's coming off of a torn ACL. So I know people would comment, oh, he fits the 49ers already. He's already injured, right? That's what most people would say. He can beat man coverage, though. He can. Remember, the 49ers have 40 million in cap space and can get up to 60 million in cap space depending on what they do with Ayuk's contract structure. And I can talk more about that in another video, kind of like a free agency preview of what they can do, who they could release. I already did one a month ago, but I probably should do a post Super Bowl one since we're getting close to the NFL draft and at least the combines next week. But Tyreek Hill can at least beat man coverage. This is something that the 49ers have lacked the last 2 years. Last in man coverage, like rate of beating man coverage, last in terms of downfield passing, pretty much because you can't really throw the ball downfield. Part of the reason Brock Purdy was so good in 2023 wasn't just because Debo was still good or McCaffrey had an all-time year. McCaffrey just had another great year. It wasn't because of that. It was because Brandon Ayuk was able to separate. And what that allowed is Debo to get these short passes and do something with it instead of the defense being prepared for those quick, easy throws to Debo and McCaffrey. It kept the defense honest. So when they're playing two safety sets, which everyone's doing in the modern NFL, you mean they don't really have to play that against the 49ers because there's not really a downfield threat, right? Like they do that against teams that have downfield passing attacks. Like the Patriots were pretty good at that last year. Obviously, in the Super Bowl, Mike McDonald's defense is so advanced and so different that we didn't really see a lot of that because they disguise it as man coverage and drop into zone a lot of times. And Brock Purdy's great against zone coverage. In fact, he's the best quarterback in the National Football League against zone coverage. That's not the issue. The issue is man coverage. And if defenses know that you can't throw the ball downfield, they can play you a certain way, which is why it's incredibly impressive that Kyle Shanahan led this team to 12 wins and Brock Purdy looked so good. I know not against Seattle in the playoffs, but that wasn't his fault. They had nobody against a very complicated defense. Drake May was almost the MVP. He lost it by 1 vote, and he couldn't do anything against that defense. The only quarterback we saw do anything against Seattle all year was Matthew Stafford, who ended up winning the MVP. And Brock Purdy's not as good as Matthew Stafford. I think we can all agree there. Even Niners fans know, like even maybe David Lombardi's the only one who doesn't agree that Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than Brock Purdy, because I know David Lombardi thinks Brock's the best in the world. And if you just look at the stats, Brock is definitely up there. There's no doubt about that. And I have been adamant about saying he's a top 10 quarterback. I just don't put him in that elite tier quite yet. I think it is contingent upon a system, but they have to help him. If you don't have guys that can beat man coverage, we saw Ricky Pearsall try to do that. And he looked so good the first few weeks. And then he got injured. He couldn't beat man coverage the way he did earlier on in the season against Seattle, against Jacksonville. That became an issue, right? That's why it's impressive that they were able to win so much and score so many points on those slant routes. I mean, Brock does a great job at hitting receivers over the linebackers in before the safeties, like to Kittle and Tonjes. We saw a lot of that. One of the best quarterbacks in the league at doing that, layering the ball over the midfield, over the linebackers, on post routes, on little dig routes, all that, because they can't run vertical routes really with the guys they have. Now, maybe Jordan Watkins can do that. They drafted him obviously to be able to do that, but we didn't see Jordan Watkins. We don't know how good Jordan Watkins is. Kyle Shanahan didn't put him on the field. Maybe he's not a good blocker, but now with Juwan Jennings gone, probably. Obviously we saw that report. I'm sure all of you guys saw that. The Niners insiders, and I've talked to a few, they don't believe Juwan's going to be back. I think that was an obvious thing. I could have told you that months ago, that once he was marketed out at 20 plus million, that's not where they should spend their resources, that they were going to be looking for different types of receivers. The problem is too, like I mentioned about man coverage, Tyreek Hill can beat man coverage. That's one thing. Now he'll be expensive. I don't care. He's coming off of a serious injury. Tyreek Hill is still Tyreek Hill. He's not 35 years old. I believe he is 31 or 32, right? He's 31 years old. Okay. This is a guy who can still be fully recovered from that ACL and still be productive. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Tyreek Hill of 2023, but I mean, he tore his whole leg up. He's not going to be as fast, but he'll be faster than any Niners receiver, right? So I think that's definitely something they have to consider. Now, the 49ers don't want another head case wide receiver. They just had Brandon Ayuk, and I think that's going to be the deciding factor. If they want someone who can beat man coverage, they're going to try and go get Alec Pierce. They're going to get Casey Concepcion in the draft. They're going to get some Omar Cooper in the draft, somebody who can beat man coverage. Denzel Boston, right? 89.9 man coverage grade. They're not going to go get Tyreek Hill. And it has nothing to do with his talent. It's just they have PTSD about wide receivers and the way they act, especially head case wide receivers. And, whether it's fair or not, Tyreek Hill is a head case wide receiver. And he's also old. That's a great point right here that you just made. He's old. And this is an offense that needs to get younger. George Kittle's 32, right? Christian McCaffrey's 29, about to be 30 years old. He's the youngest of these guys, right? Juwan Jennings is about to be 29, but he's not going to be on the team. And thank gosh, because they don't need another old receiver making a bunch of money. If they brought Debo Samuel back, which I think would be the nail in the coffin for John Lynch's career, he would be fired by the end of the year if they brought back Debo Samuel. He's old. He's 30, right? And then you look at Trent Williams, 38. Now, Trent is still great, but he's 38. Drake Brendell's 35. Colton McKivitz is in his prime. Colton McKivitz, actually, shout out to him. He was ranked, I think, what was it, 61st on the PFF top 100 players. Honestly, people used to hate Colton McKivitz. I was very critical of him. He is under probably the best offensive line contract in the league. They got a bargain with him. So it's good that they can use him at right tackle and Trent at left tackle for the foreseeable future. But let's be real. I mean, their offense is old. Ricky Pearsall's 23. Okay, cool. Demarcus Robinson's like 30. Kendrick Bourne, if you bring him back, like 30. You know what I mean? This is not a young team. Brock Purdy's young. Kyle Juszczyk, 4? I believe he's 34, Kyle Juszczyk. So again, that's a good point because that's another thing that's going to dictate this offseason. Is this a 49ers team that's going to see offense the same way they saw defense last year, where they got astronomically younger? Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West, Upton Stout, Marquise Siegel, right? They got rid of a lot of guys like Traveris Ward they let walk. Okay, he was going to be older. He's never going to be the same player. Okay, he's a great corner. He did great for us. Obviously, the whole thing with this kid, like he was never coming back to the 49ers. It's horrible what happened to him. And we love Charvarius Ward. He's great. But he was getting older as well. Okay. Lenore's still in his prime. You got guys like even Luter's 26, and I hate Luter. I don't want to see him playing in the 49ers uniform again. I'd rather draft a corner or a safety that can take some depth, get some depth pieces for the 49ers. But that is a good point. Tyreek Hill is also very old. And I do think that he is a guy that can beat man coverage and that they will look at. But let's be real, the 49ers, they don't go after these glamorous signings ever. They're not trying to hype up the fan base with that. Otherwise, they would go trade for Max Crosby. Otherwise, they would have traded for Trey Hendrickson at the deadline. Otherwise, they would have signed and went after Devontae Adams. And Devontae Adams famously said they lowballed him, and then he went to the Rams. I'm glad they stayed away from Devontae because he was, I'm not going to say a touchdown merchant. He's still obviously a very good football player. But if you look at the advanced metrics for Devontae Adams, he's not the same player he was 3 years ago. It's evident he's going to be even worse this year, which is why I think the Rams could definitely draft Mekhi Lemon at 13, right? So at the end of the day, what's up, Mosh? You're the man, bro. I know I'm my girl's studying right now, so I got some time to do the stream right now. She's in medical school, so I'm visiting her in New Mexico right now. Not a lot to do in Las Cruces, New Mexico, but there is great coffee shops. Great coffee shops in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm here for a few days, and I'll be back in LA. By the way, fun fact about Las Cruces: next to Juarez, Mexico, next to El Paso, Texas. You have to fly into El Paso to drive to Las Cruces. If you fly into Albuquerque, like it's what was it, 2 hours, Amy? 4 hours? 4 hours. Yeah. So again, back to it. But Tyreek is old. Yes, he can beat man coverage. Long story short, there are easier ways to go and get beat man coverage, right? There's easier ways to go get guys like Alec Pierce. But again, I don't think they get Alec Pierce either. This is not a team that spends money on one player. Everyone talks about Tyler Linderbaum. I think the top end guy that they're going to get in free agency isn't a wide receiver. I don't think they sign Alec Pierce. I don't think they sign. I don't think they trade for AJ Brown. I don't think they sign Tyler Linderbaum. I think they would sign Elijah Vera Tucker. That's kind of like at the top of my list. Someone who can play opposite guard of Dominic Pooney, protect Brock Purdy. And I think you have to get it in the draft. You have to get a separator in the draft at this point, somebody who could beat man coverage. And you just pray that Jordan Watkins can be good. Maybe Jordan Watkins is good. Maybe Kyle knows something, John knows something that we don't, because he obviously ran I think it was a 4.41, 4.37. Jordan Watkins' 40 time. I tend to have or close to a photographic memory, but I don't know 100%. I saw it once. I think it was 4.41 or 4.37. 4.37. I was right. I saw that once like 6 months ago, and somehow I remembered it. That's major W. I don't know how I remember that. But Jordan Watkins is fast, right? So why isn't he playing? He's obviously a candidate that can beat man coverage. And if they know that, they know more than us. I give John Lynch a lot of shit, rightfully so. He hasn't drafted a blue chip prospect in 10 years. I give Kyle Shanahan a lot of crap, and in-game adjusting, possibly the worst coach in the league playing from behind, but the best coach in the league playing ahead until the fourth quarter. A scripted plays, he's number one, right? I would think. He doesn't know how to adjust. His pride gets in the way and stuff like that. But maybe Jordan Watkins is good. So if they draft a Casey Concepcion, if you draft even in round two a Zachariah Branch, those are guys that could beat man coverage. Zachariah Branch, 87.7 man coverage grade in college. Denzel Boston, if you go in round one, if he falls on 89.9 grade against man coverage in PFF, right? Casey Concepcion, 77 grade versus man coverage, but he's a great yards after catch guy, fits in perfectly kind of in the offense. I'm starting to believe they could actually go receiver in round one. I'm not quite there. I still think Emmanuel McNeil Warren safety is most likely. I could see Lee Hunter and continue to invest in that D line with the Raheem Morris hire, getting maulers on that D line. Because I love Alfred Collins and CJ West, but if they got Lee Hunter, no one would ever be able to run the football on them. They would have 3 run stoppers in CJ West, Alfred Collins, and Lee Hunter. I like it. I know they'll be interested in Emmanuel McNeil Warren because Raheem loves ball hawk safeties that can force turnovers. And we know the 49ers were last in sacks, last in turnovers, last in almost every defensive metric. So they're going to focus on defense a lot. I'm just saying I don't think Tyreek Hill is the guy to go after. As much as I like Tyreek Hill, as much as I think he can still be a very good player, I can see him going to a team that can take a risk, like the Raiders or the Titans that have money to spend, the Chargers, money to spend, and a need for a wide receiver one. I like Lad McConkey. I know our boy Grant Cohn played golf with Lad McConkey a few weeks ago. Seems like a great guy. But let's be real. Lad McConkey forgot who he was in the second half of the season. He does not look like a wide receiver one anymore. Now, I want to see another year. QJ is obviously hit or miss. Keenan Allen's old. So they could be interested in Tyreek Hill. I don't think the 49ers are going to go after Tyreek Hill. And my point here is they need someone who can beat man coverage. Tyreek can do that. He's coming off of a major injury, but they also will not sign Alec Pierce. I know this front office too well, and they're not going to put all of their resources into one position group or one player. Alec Pierce will cost 20 plus million a year, and I'd rather pay him that than Juwan Jennings because Juwan Jennings runs like a 5.4 40, even though he's tough and a good blocker. I do think that they're going to let Jennings walk, and they're not going to sign Alec Pierce. I want to see them sign Elijah Vera Tucker. I'll make another free agency video in a few days about what I would do as the 49ers GM, like kind of a mock off season. That's weird. My light went out. I got to charge the light. See, it went out for a sec. So the stream's almost done. My ring light. But yeah. Well, looks like it's going to keep going out. So I'll end it here. I do think they spend it on other position groups. I think they believe in Jordan Watkins, whether we do or not. It doesn't really matter. We haven't seen Jordan Watkins play football yet in a game. So again, I'll leave it there. So I'm going to say no on Tyreek Hill. Again, this will be up on YouTube, the full analysis of the position group of wide receiver entering free agency, Tyreek Hill specifically. If you're watching this on TikTok, make sure to go sub to my YouTube. It'll be posted thereafter. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to go follow me on TikTok and X. I love all you guys. Bang, bang, Niner gang, baby. I'll be back on a stream tomorrow.